people need them a lot more than others. Sometimes even fandoms are just so dirty that they themselves could benefit from a bath. A couple that I can think of off the top of my head are Sonic the Hedgehog fans, My Little Pony fans, and of course furries. Imagine the smell inside one of those suits at the end of the day. Now, what happens when a bath becomes so notorious that they go into the tales of legend? Today, I'm going to be taking you down another rabbit hole of a fandom. One fandom known as Homestuck, and a bath so legendary it might have killed someone. So, join me today as we look into the Homestuck Sharpie Bath incident. Now, I'm just giving you a very brief rundown on the phenomenon known as Homestuck. Homestuck in its entirety is about 8,000 pages. So to give you an idea on how long that is, one piece at time of recording is roughly about 21,000 pages. It would take them as long as it took Luffy to get to Gear 2. Homestuck is Gear 2 length. Or like half of Bleach. It doesn't matter, it's long. I've read it so you don't have to. Now, for what we're talking about today, you don't need a whole lot of lore into this. You just need to know like the basic strokes of Homestuck. Because the main thing we're talking about today is the fandom. Now, Homestuck fans, for better or worse, they have a reputation. Like furries and the dreaded bronies, Homestuck fans kind of sit in their own little corner of the room that we call the internet. Basically sitting there and trying to avoid all the gaze of everyone around. Now, what is or was Homestuck? Homestuck was a webcomic by Andrew Hussie that ran from 2009 to 2016 with subsequent sequels and spin-offs here and there. Now, most of Homestuck is done in Photoshop and Flash, which honestly, the level of quality that this is actually pretty great because my art quality is pretty much equivalent to Sonichu scribbles. The plot of Homestuck follows a group of teenagers playing a reality warping video game that destroys and then creates a new multiverse in which they must try and finish the game. Almost immediately, within about even less than a year, Homestuck had gained a massive rabid fandom. And when I say rabid, I mean rabid. This might not be where fandom civil wars came from, but it certainly was one of the most intense. On its inception, Homestuck was originally meant to be like an interactive quest-style game, kind of like the Choose Your Adventure books. Andrew wanted people and fans to interact and be a part of the experience. But by 2010, the fandom had grown so massive, it became impossible for Andrew to continue in this format. He closed the submissions for readers, but he admitted that he would still visit fan blogs and forums to get ideas of small things to add to Homestuck. It's kind of like they're still submitting things. One Reddit user summed things up about the fandom pretty well. My best thoughts, as someone who was 16 when they read the comic in October of 18, there were kids and teenagers who had free range on the internet, specifically Tumblr. Those kids found so many blogs, and most of them were ask blogs with fan art or cosplays in character, of course. This in-character stuff caused many Homestuck teens to idolize and copy the behaviors of kids who honestly were not all that right in the head. Also, the Homestuck adult fans made a lot of weird comics and a lot of Whoa! Which honestly kind of makes a lot of sense. This take reminds me of the Final Fantasy house Jen, who thought she soul bonded with many Final Fantasy characters. Young teen minds attaching themselves to characters to relate and be accepted by their peers. Kids whose minds are still transitioning into puberty and then into adulthood. Now, I wasn't around at the peak of Homestuck fandom, but I definitely can still relate. I grew up with a lot of friends who were definitely very weeby and Final Fantasy house level Final Fantasy fans. So I definitely understand the vibe of wanting to be a part of something bigger, regardless of cringe. But that's not really what we're here to talk about. Yes, we're here to talk a little bit about the fandom, but I wanted to give you backstory on the real meat and potatoes of this. I wanted to talk to you. We're here to talk about the Sharpie Bath. This incident was a post on everyone's favorite and most reliable website, 4chan. It was posted in early 2012 detailing the events that happened in a 2011 Anime Expo. The post reads as follows. So, via a recent blog, I found out that the story of my friend's hotel room had circulated far and wide across the internet. May I just say that this story is completely true, and I was there to witness the bathroom. The post is made on CGL, but neither of us circulated back to Tumblr because we tend not to want to connect the two sites. I'll repost the story and then go into details after. The story goes as posted by my friend and experienced firsthand.
Room with friends for Anime Expo. They have a few stragglers to make up for last-minute dropouts in the room. They don't know one of the girls too well, but they need the money. Girl is probably where the term hambeast originated, as well as a few other words. See weeaboo, Japanophile, fucking re. We'll call her Terry. We get to the con Friday night, and Terry is 3 hours late. This wouldn't have mattered, but we had to pay at check-in, and she hadn't paid yet. Get settled in. She throws her stuff all over the room and proceeds to start yakking about her new favorite thing, Homestuck. A forward, I don't mind Homestuck itself, but I hate the fandom. Saturday rolls around. Terry is cosplaying a troll from Homestuck, the one with the red eyes and the Libra symbol. She locks herself in the bathroom. I need to get my troll makeup, don't come in. 2 hours later, she still isn't done. There are 2 people in the room with Trinity Blood costumes, and myself and my friends have makeup that takes at least an hour to apply. Plus, we all still need to shower. Not that our costumes automatically take priority, but 2 hours, really? We notice a funny smell coming from the bathroom. Door is locked, and she won't let us in. 15 minutes later, we start to get really suspicious. Friend decides to shimmy open the door. Her purse and valuables are in there, and she needs to go. Get door open. Terry is sitting in the bathtub naked. The bathtub is filled almost halfway with what we later found out was 70% alcohol and Sharpie dye. Bottles and Sharpies everywhere. It's all over the walls, on the tile, on almost all the towels, on several articles of clothing and bags in the bathroom. What she says? I was going to clean it up. Bitch, you tried to dye yourself gray in a bathtub. We kick her out of the room. She pays us $700 in damage fees. She gets skin poisoning damage from her stupid stunt. Fucking Homestuck fans.
That's the story as was posted. To clarify, it was one of those situations where my friend needed people in her room desperately because people had dropped out, and we all know expensive hotels are. They had known the girl from a prior convention, and of course she seemed sane enough, but things just went progressively downhill as the convention went on. People have been saying that one can't get ink poisoning from Sharpies, and while you actually can, the other thing was that she used a mix of Sharpies and 70% alcohol to dye herself in. Along with alcohol poisoning, overexposure to the substances combined can produce various negative effects on the body. I was called about the situation and dropped by my friend's hotel as they were moving their stuff out. The whole hotel room reeked of Sharpies and alcohol. There were handprints and streaks of gray/black Sharpie residue everywhere, and they had kept Terry there to take down the hotel staff to report the incident and have her pay for damages. So, yeah, that's a story. It happened. I'll try to dig up pictures of the hotel room if I can find it to post up, because damn, shit was redonk. The moral of the story is to not be such a fucking idiot and think before you act. April out. The original post links to another post from a now deleted Tumblr user.
Leg disabled!
The contents of that post appear to have been completely lost, as it wasn't really archived, as I tried looking for it on the Wayback Machine and I got diddly. The veracity of the story is called into question quite a bit. Doing some digging around on the Homestuck Reddit, it's wildly discredited by a lot of the fans. Some people claiming they knew the person or were one of the roommates, or that the girl died from alcohol poisoning. One person, claiming to be a chemical process engineer, said the following in regards to the story. Alcohol poisoning is not possible. What this trend can cause is slight skin irritation, nothing more. If it is swallowed, nothing happens. The markers do not contain substances such as xylene or toluene, but these are not dangerous in the quantities present, plus when dissolved in water at low exposure levels. So, it is not healthy, but it is not very harmful or even deadly. So, even with overwhelmingly high odds that it's a fictional story, there are no primary direct sources. no evidence to corroborate the story. And let's be real, someone would have taken a shit ton of pics and it would have been plastered all over the place.
Who posted my nudes on Twitter.com?
Especially 4chan. Around the same time was a incident where a lot of Magic the Gathering players put a shit ton of cards in a jacuzzi and that pic circulated. It was extremely mundane, but it still circulated everywhere. My point is, where's the evidence? Over the years, it has been speculated that the original post, the post that originated on 4chan, was basically just made as a rumor to damage the already negative opinion many had of Homestuck cosplayers. Regardless, no one has ever come forward with solid proof that this alleged incident happened, nor has the promised photographic evidence. Now, like I said before, Homestuck fans already kind of had a bad reputation. So a story like this to somebody on the outside looking in, it very much seemed like something that a Homestuck person would do. And the Homestuck fandom was already rife with a ton of really shitty fandom stories. From people covered in body paint, smearing it all over walls, to people being stalked at cons, to the spit bucket. I don't want to talk about it.
Okay, I'm good. One, go. This is the making of Nick Cage.
The Sharpie Bath incident, despite being 99.999999999% not true, seemed more like a meta-commentary on the state of the Homestuck fandom for all the weird stuff they're involved in. Like the spit bucket. Anyway, it's kind of like how the furries are a lot of the times considered some degenerates and sick, but only really a handful of them are actually bad. I'm starting to realize that I'm defending furries a lot here, and people might be getting the wrong idea. The Sharpie Bath story really existing is more of a cautionary fable on how far some people will go with their fandom, or, on the other side, how far some people will go to trash a fandom. Reading the story multiple times and the cadence of it overall really also kind of seems like someone just trying to create discourse and disparage the fan base as a whole, just to reinforce the whole
Fucking Homestuck fans
mindset of the times. It really reads as an outsider with an agenda, or just someone who got on the hate train of Homestuck. Even to this day, it's still kind of weird to see that this story still gets floated around. A lot of people still believing it's true even. Now, obviously, like I said, there's about 99% chance that this didn't happen. But there's still always that minuscule chance that it did. Maybe one day somebody will just bust out their old Nokia and pull out the memory card and be like, oh shit, that's right, I had this picture of this crazy lady covered in Sharpie Bath. Maybe one day that'll happen. Until then, we really don't have any concrete evidence or proof. On the flip side, we do have YouTuber Mclovin, who in January 2024 did his due diligence to prove it never happened. I highly recommend watching this guy's video, it is awesome. He even went as far as to contacting the hotels in the surrounding areas and speaking with staff members to come to the same conclusion: it didn't happen. This rumor was propagated and proliferated enough around 4chan, Tumblr, and the internet as a whole where it gained a life of its own. From what I read after the story came out, a lot of the fandom had moments like, okay, I know it's going to sound really bad, but hear me out moments, and it really was unfair to the Homestuck fans. Homestuck is what I like to consider a hardcore fandom. You get the average enjoyers and the people who need to freak out and explain every single minutia detail of their obsession. While neither ways are incorrect ways to be a fan, a lot of people, especially in the con scenes in the 2010s, hated the latter version of fans. It almost became the meme of average Homestuck enjoyer versus Homestuck haters. Homestuck fans really have it pretty hard as it is. They have their own problems. From some cons just straight up not wanting them there, to Andrew being problematic in his own fandom. He's no J.K. Rowling, but the fandom a lot of the times seems not to be very happy with him. Copyright issues, Tumblr in general, and this story really didn't do them any favors. I mean, I feel comfortable saying this is just a troll and not a gray-faced one, messing with the fandom just to ride the hate train. And I still don't want to talk about the spit bucket. I guess like the real lesson here is don't believe everything you see on the internet, especially if it might come from 4chan. But don't believe everything you read or see on the internet without proof, or just enjoy fandoms. Like, if somebody's fandom isn't harming you, who cares? Love what you love, do what you do, and as long as you hurt nobody, who gives a shit? That was my little adventure into Homestuck, the fandom, and just the tip of the iceberg that is Tumblr. Hopefully, Tumblr fans don't come at me, but a bit of me hopes that they do. If you have a story I should cover, let me know in the comments. If this gets 300 likes, I'll actually reenact the Sharpie Bath. I'd like to also thank my beautiful Patreons scrolling on the screen. I literally cannot do this without you. So, join me next time when Tumblr fans cut my break lines. Until then, cheers.